You can sense the intensity as they await the arrival of the Tennessee team here at Neyland Stadium. The #1 undefeated Volunteers prepare to race onto the field. Everything is riding on this football game. So there's a special intensity, a special urgency. Here come the Volunteers. Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
What's up, YouTubes? What's up, everybody out there in college football land? We've had a heck of a weekend. Lots going on, college football playoffs. And was anybody surprised of how the two ball games went yesterday? I was a little bit, and then there was part of me that wasn't surprised. Clemson started out pretty slow against Notre Dame, but they threw it on at the end. I think this is going to be an epic ball game. Alabama came out of the gates on fire and let Oklahoma hang around just a little bit. Gave them some hope, but Alabama's Alabama, and I think the two best teams won their ball games. And I want to hear what y'all have to think about the ball games. We've got to. We've got some other news down near South Beach. Mark Richt quits, or did he get asked to quit? I want to know what y'all think on that. Allied Oil and Tire sponsors this show, and I want to hear from you guys on the Allied Oil and Tire hotline. They've got locations in Omaha, Des Moines, Sioux City, Wichita, Kansas City, and Joplin, and I use the Joplin locations. But the phone lines are open. I invested heavily, and I've got my co-host. He's on with us, Couch Coach. Couch Coach, let me ask you a question. Do you think Mark Richt quit, or was he asked to quit?
Man, that's a tough question. I'm just not 100% sure. I mean, when Mark took that job in 2016, it seemed like the AD and everyone down there was just extremely happy to have a coach of Mark Richt's caliber, especially given the last couple guys that they've had down there. And I think a lot of people, when they think of the University of Miami, they refer back to the early 90s or the 80s for sure. But the Miami job is not as good of a job as people like to think it is. I mean, there are some really inherent facility problems there. I mean, it is a talent hotbed, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't have the built-in advantages that a lot of these SEC schools have. And I thought that, Mark, from a fit standpoint, was really going to have a little bit of a challenge there. And I think that all of that kind of proved to be the case. And, at Miami, you got to win. I mean, that's a program that has 5 national championships, and, they're not going to put up with a bunch of 8-4s and 9-5s and things like that. And clearly this season had gone off the rails, but even that being said, I really thought that they still could have turned it around a little bit for next year. And, Mark would have been at least given the chance to turn it around. But I just think that the combination of how this season went, the AD being a little public about, his disappointment in the bowl game, I think it all just kind of led to maybe a mutual separation there.
Yeah, that means he probably doesn't get his buyout if he's the one that quit. And I'm sure he had a buyout, but maybe he's going to do the Urban Meyer thing, quit and take a year off and show back up somewhere else. Who knows? Anyway, I think Mark Richt was a decent enough coach. I just don't think he was a championship caliber coach. I mean, he had all the opportunities, all the talent to work with at Georgia and couldn't get it done. And if you can't get it done at Georgia, you're not going to be able to get it done at Miami. That's just all there is to it. And they even have an easier road to get there down there in Miami. Heck, they're in the ACC. They've got one hard game a season, and that's Clemson. If they play that, play every year. I don't know if they do. I don't follow the ACC, but
yeah,
Let's move on to these games yesterday, and I want to hear from you guys about the Mark Richt situation, what you think about the College Football Playoff Committee and their selection as you look back and play Monday morning quarterback. The phone number is 855-489-7623. Couch Coach, you're a Georgia fan, and looking back on those two games yesterday and what transpired and how they turned out, do you still think the committee got it right?
Again, I mean, this is where it's always going to get difficult because it's that balance between deserving versus the best four teams. I mean, obviously, as a Georgia fan, I have taken the stance that Georgia needs to move on from 2018. And I think a lot of our fans are still stuck in the fact that we should have been there. We should be a top four team. Well, we are a top four team, but I've told them from a lot of our fans the same thing, and that, look, we don't win our title game, we don't get in. We don't have the clout of an Alabama. We don't have the clout of an Ohio State. So, what Georgia needs to do is focus on from here on out for 2019, which is they got to win their Sugar Bowl. They got to get a top three recruiting class. They got to carry that momentum into 2019. And I think that's what a lot of these schools need to look at. And I think that without question, I mean, I don't think the committee, I mean, if you're looking at it just objectively, I don't think Notre Dame's a bad pick to put in there as an undefeated team. I don't think, OU is a bad pick when in their conference and things like that. It's not that Notre Dame and Oklahoma are that bad. It's just I think Clemson and Alabama are just so good that it wouldn't have mattered who they put in there. I mean, Georgia, even if we beat Alabama in the SEC title game, I just have a hard time seeing us beating them in a rematch. So I just think Alabama and Clemson, regardless, were the two best teams this year.
Yeah, the knee-jerk reaction is to say, hey, that they didn't get it right. Look what an embarrassment. Two games that weren't really close. And that's really our job, is to second-guess, fans second-guess everything. I don't know. How do you leave out a 12-0 team? But now I'm going to keep saying it. Notre Dame needs to get into a conference. If they're tired of hearing about they're getting an extra week off, then get in a conference. I understand why they're not going to get into it, but hopefully them getting beat, I don't know that the committee will give them a benefit of the doubt. Do you think like this year's results will have any sway on next year's selections if we were looking at the same scenario next year? Do you think the committee has a memory and says, hey, look, Notre Dame, you're just not as good. You don't need to be in? Or do you think they still get in if they had to do it all over again, looking back at the results?
See, it's just hard to say with this current setup, because eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be an 8-game playoff. Now, my personal opinion is when they actually do go to an 8-game playoff, I think it's going to be after this run that Alabama has, right? So it's not going to matter anyway. And honestly, even if we go to an 8-game playoff, I still think you're going to see Alabama and Clemson there towards the end. I just do. I think that their programs right now are at a level that it's just above everyone else. And I think, you have some teams like the Georgias and the Ohio States that are kind of around there. I think Georgia is probably pretty close to that level. But I still think that it's the same kind of deal. And it was just hard for Georgia this year to get to that top four with a two-loss team. But I think eventually, in the next couple of years, you're going to see a team with 2 losses win a national championship. I just think it's down the pipe. It's going to happen. And it's already happened one time about 11 years ago with LSU. So I think that you're going to see some of these teams, some of these conference winners with 2 losses get in. And I think you're going to see kind of a situation where they'll make a run and win the SEC or national championship with 2 losses.
Well, I don't want to see – I don't know if I want to see an 8-team playoff. Part of me thinks, well, that's fair. But, when we get an 8-team, then we'll want a, 16 team. When does it stop?
Yep.
I do see the point how the more teams you have in the playoffs, the more meaningless your regular season becomes. But anyway, I've got somebody on hold, and I want to hear from you guys. This show is your show, guys, out there. This show belongs to you. Me and Couch Coach, we're just kind of like the air traffic controllers. We want to hear from you guys, and I'm going to make a quick run through of everybody, do some shout outs, and then I'm going to go to a call. We got Hound Dog, Brady the Goat in here, Michael Rector. Great to see all you guys. College basketball talk. You changed your name. Hey, look, Duke. We're gonna see Duke in the Final Four. Tennessee is, and we're gonna take care of business against Duke. They're overrated. Alex Howard, Nick Saban's in here. Can you believe Nick Saban actually watches Roadshow Sports? This is just amazing. Aaron Ross is in here. Ryan Schrick, crazy Ryan. I bet he's pretty happy. His boys took care of business. What do you think about that game? Ryan Schrick's Gators surprised me. Did they surprise you beating Michigan?
You know, I'm just glad these Florida fans have got their feet back underneath them a little bit with their 10-win season, and they're chirping again. I've already had to deal with a few of my Florida buddies, and I enjoy beating Florida when you guys are good. So I hope you guys keep winning. I hope you keep coming into that Jacksonville contest undefeated so we can keep putting a knife into your season there.
Yeah, you heard it, Ryan. Call in if you want to. Ashley Snell, boys from D, JC69. Good to see all of y'all in here. Let's see who else is in here. Bradley Aarons, Cold Blood's in here. Good to see you. Let's see. Clan Robertson, great Georgia fan. How you doing, Clan? Good to see you in here. Space Mountain, Florida fan. Good to see you. Roll Tide 24. I bet you're pretty happy, but you're not surprised. It must be nice being an Alabama fan, getting to win all the time. Josh Reamer's in here. Matt 7397. He's actually on hold. Depressed Tennessee fan. Hey, look, there's nothing to be depressed about because we are now officially in the off season, and everybody knows Tennessee is the 11-time reigning off-season national champs. We're going 15-0 next year. Book it. Bet your house on it. We're coming for the world next year. But anyway, Austin Newsom's in here. NS Train Boy. Man, they've got a lot of you in here. Quentin Crisp is in here. Anyway, let's go to the phones. You want to take some calls there, Couch Coach? I think we should take some calls. Callers have been great to us over the last year we've been doing this. Let's see. Alex Howard, I see you're in here. Let's go to the 423. I think this is Matt 7397. What'd you think about the game yesterday, Matt?
I fell asleep during it. I'll tell you that. It just feels like the same old story for 4 years straight, and it's sort of getting tiresome. But I mean, what can you do about it other than beat them?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, we're going to have Clemson, Alabama, number 4. So what you don't think the games are all that exciting? I got to listen to them on the radio, so I get a little bit different perspective than those of you that get to watch it. It sounded to me like it was a pretty snoozer between Clemson and Notre Dame to start out with, and then just Clemson just was too much for Notre Dame, and then Alabama started out gangbusters, and then they kind of had a lull there in the middle of the game. How did you see the game?
I saw bits and pieces of it. I was hanging out with family mostly. I saw the part of the Clemson Notre Dame game. It was just one of those you just sit back in the background and have it for ambience noise type thing. Then I started paying attention to Alabama, Oklahoma there, and I looked at the first quarter score, end of the first quarter, and I was like, well, there's the playoffs. It's 21-0 at end of the first quarter, and I was like, well. I got back home by that point. I turned it over there, and I saw about halftime, Oklahoma scored, I think, 2 seconds left in the second quarter, and I was like, all right, they're going to see if they can make it in the game. It was 28-7 at halftime, and then all of a sudden they start putting something together, and then Alabama just became, what Alabama is. They just overpower somebody. And that's pretty much how I saw it. It was just two powerhouse teams taking over college football again. And it's sort of getting boring, but it's understandable and easy to see why this happened. It's because of how Alabama is and how Clemson is the alternative to Alabama, but they're just sort of becoming Alabama at the same breath. I want to see some more teams come up there, but I do not want. I'm not one of those that wants to see an 18 playoff. It just would not work. How would you situate the bowl games out? When would you play these games? Is another question. Would a team have a bye through the bowl season? It would be just hectic to trying to think about an 18 playoff at this point.
Well, I think that from the 8-game playoff perspective, if you're really looking at that honestly, you would look at doing away with the conference games as the first alternative, because honestly, if you have, especially you have like an Alabama or a Georgia or even like an LSU or something that was down there like at 8, I mean, what's the point of having these conference games if they don't matter, right? So
right.
I think that would be the first alternative. The second alternative would be to go back to 11 regular season games, which I doubt any of these ADs will do. But again, that would kind of make it to where the bowl games would at least be like you have to have a winning record to get to a bowl game at 6-5. You're not beating each other up for 12 weeks, one less game, and then you have a game that actually matters during that conference, bowl time, which would be a playoff game, and then you have the top 4, top 2 like normal.
Right. I don't want it to interfere with my NFL tonight. Tonight I'm watching the Colts Titans tonight. I hope my Titans win. But we have no starting quarterback really other than Blaine Gabbert, so it's just going to be interesting to see how that plays out tonight. I think the defense needs to ring true against Andrew Luck, but it's going to be tough. Andrew Luck 10-0 against the Titans. It's interesting thought to ponder on, since pretty much the winner they changed this. This is one of the few times they actually changed Sunday night games to coincide with how the NFL is turning out, but how the playoffs at least are turning out. I can't remember what the original slate was going to be for Sunday night, but I don't know if any of y'all watch NFL right now, but
yeah, well, this year I don't watch NFL as much. I mean, because my Falcons are absolutely lousy this year. But I will say that who do you think is going to get to the Super Bowl from the AFC and the NFC?
I had beginning of the season it was going to be Patriots and Saints, and I'm glad I can say Saints is probably going to make it. They're going to have a dog fight with the Rams. It's going to be a high scoring game with the Rams. Yeah, probably in the NFC title game, and then AFC title game will probably be. I can see I see the Chiefs. But I'm not the highest on Patrick Mahomes. I think he still has a lot more to prove because playoffs in the NFL are a lot different than playing just a bowl game in college. It's hard to say who's going to be against the Chiefs just because Patriots has not looked good at all season. But Tom Brady changes in the playoffs. Like he becomes a different quarterback in the playoffs. I think Chiefs, Patriots, and the AFC title game, and I think the Chiefs can pull it off. So I got Saints and Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year.
All right, there you go.
I think it'll be iffy. Go ahead.
I don't watch that much NFL, but I do have. There's a lot of people in my circle of influence, be it in Southwest Missouri, that are huge Chiefs fans, and so I kind of listen to them a little bit. So I'm a little biased. I think the Chiefs could be in the Super Bowl pretty easily. I think there's a changing of the guard between the older quarterbacks that everybody thought were couldn't be stopped. Aaron Rodgers is on the downhill slide. You got Brady's not quite what Brady used to be, but like you said, when he gets in the playoffs, it's like he switches a switch there and just turns into something different. But I don't watch a lot of NFL. College football and college athletics are my deal. I mean, I do watch it, but nothing like college football.
There's a new I think a pro football out there. I think the Alliance League or whatever it was called. I saw the ad for it on CBS a minute ago, watching the Jacksonville and Texans game. There's going to be a new spring football. I think it's what's going to be starting after the Super Bowl. That's another reason why I don't want. I go back to the 18 playoffs thing was it interfere with sort of the Super Bowl ratings, and I don't think they might have an effect with that. But it never fails to see what college football and NFL, how they'll counteract with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, the Miami, I just heard about this today. Are we for sure Mark Richt left to straight quit on him?
I don't know.
Well, we know that Mark. Well, we know that Mark issued an official letter of I am stepping down as the head coach of Miami. So that's definite. I mean, that's been out there. That's been talked to. I mean, we've seen the conference. I personally think it's kind of a mutual deal. I think the AD was getting frustrated about how the season was going and was kind of making some things maybe public a little bit this year. And I think Mark just on his end, from a program standpoint, really had some issues with that offensive side of the ball. They did not have a good recruiting cycle. It didn't look like it was the kind of thing that was going to turn around. And I think that for Mark, I just felt like he was burnt out after the Georgia job, and I think he really needed a year off from that Georgia job. He jumped into this Miami job instead. And so I just don't think it was a good fit. I think Miami itself has some issues from a program standpoint of being able to build a program. And I guess the biggest question mark that I have for my Tennessee friends here is, does Lane Kiffin take this job at Miami?
That would be a perfect fit for Lane Kiffin. I'm glad you said that. That would be a perfect fit. I can see Lane Kiffin. I think he's got to be the leading candidate. Who else could come in there? I mean, he's got the perfect attitude. He's got to be the leading candidate. But anyway, we got 3 callers on the hold, Matt, so I really appreciate it. You're always a fantastic call, one of my favorite callers, and I've got to get 2 or 3 more calls in before I have to hit the road. But appreciate you calling, buddy. We've got
Happy New Year to y'all.
Happy New Year, buddy. We've got, let's see.
Have a good.
Aaron's on hold. We're going to go to Chad, and then we got another Alabama fan from the 931. Let's get with Chad here real quick. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. How about you?
Pretty good. How about y'all?
Good.
I got one quick question for you, Catfish.
Yeah.
Has Tennessee replaced Kentucky as the head honcho of SEC and men's basketball?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. We're the big dogs on the block. I'm saying it right now. I know I've got some people that watch me, Kentucky fans, but we're the big dogs on the block. Admiral Schofield, Grant Williams, all those guys. Lamonte Turner's coming back. We got got to be the coach of the year, and Rick Barnes. Oh yeah, Kentucky, there has been. It's our conference for the next several years. But anyway, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, and see, I like Alabama in all sports, and I'm kind of getting nervous when they play Tennessee. So we're not doing too well this year. So.
Well, what else you got on your mind? How did your game go yesterday? You felt pretty good about that, didn't you?
Oh, I felt pretty good about it for the first half till second half kind of kicked in, and I was getting nervous.
Come on, man.
Getting real nervous.
I can't believe an Alabama fan's getting nervous. You believe that couch, Coach?
No, I don't. And look, I mean, watching that game the way I did yesterday, I'm like, listen, Alabama's back healthy. It looks like Tua looks sharp. You guys had a few miscues there, just some offside kind of dumb penalties that frustrate Nick. But listen, I mean, that game was never in doubt. I mean, as soon as they jumped out 21-0, I mean, Oklahoma's going to score some style points at the end, but they just didn't have the right game plan. They didn't have the defense to hang with you guys. That it was clear that Alabama was just a better team.
Now I got a thing about the whole Mark Richt retiring or quit thing. Because I was talking with some people and everybody's like, "Oh, he did well at Georgia." I said, 2008 was supposed to be their year. That's the way I felt about it.
Yeah.
Because I believe because they had the offense, they had Stafford, Marino, Green, and I think they had a couple other big players on that offense and defense, and they were supposed to challenge Florida to win the East and possibly go to the national championship.
Yep.
And that was the way I felt about it.
Well, the funny thing about that year was I knew with the schedule that we had that we would go about 10-2. That was back when Damon Evans was our athletic director, and for some reason he felt the need to expand the UGA brand of going across. Like, I remember we played Arizona State in Tempe, Arizona, and then turned around the very next week and played Alabama in Sanford Stadium. Well, there's pros that struggle with that kind of schedule. So we had that. We went on the road with LSU. We played Florida. I just knew that with the team that we had, and we had a very athletic team, but just with that schedule, it was not conducive to a championship schedule. And so, yeah, I think Mark, that was kind of the knock on him, was that he just couldn't maximize a lot of the talent that he got. And I think it's still kind of a question mark with Kirby, if he could, take all this talent that he gets and put it together from a coaching standpoint against an Alabama. But I think with Mark, for sure, he had plenty of opportunities to cash in with 2 or 3 teams, and it just didn't work out for him.
Do you think Mark Richt? Do you think Mark Richt would? Do you think he's going to be out of coaching forever, or do you think he'll show up somewhere in the next year or two?
Yeah, I think he's done. Yes, I hope he's done. I mean, because with coaching, a head coach at a major job, like any of these kind of jobs that you're at, you have to have the hunger to want to be the very best. It's almost like being in sales. It's like you got to be motivated by money. You got to be motivated to be the top dog. And if you don't have that as part of your DNA, it's going to be hard to get into the upper echelon against these teams that have the talent and the money and everything behind them. So I just think Mark needs to step down. I think he's a really good person. I think he needs to, get into some other endeavors. He certainly has plenty of money. So I think from a Georgia fan standpoint, I really hope we can mend that relationship. I would love to see Mark get connected in with the University of Georgia again, not necessarily from an administrative standpoint, but just in some way I'd like to see him get connected back in with UGA.
I don't know, since Matt Brown is coming back and coaching this year. So,
yeah, anything's possible, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, look, buddy, I appreciate it.
I do believe Urban's coming back too.
Yeah, what do you think Urban's done too? I think he's done. I think both Mark Richt and Urban Meyer are done. They're toast. I don't think we'll see him anywhere again. But like I told the last caller, what do you think about Lane Kiffin's name being thrown around at Miami? Do you think that's a good name? I can't think of a better prospect than Lane Kiffin to go to Miami.
I don't think it'd be such a good idea. I think there are certainly better options. As I'm thinking, could it possibly be Mario Cristobal from Oregon, moving from Oregon back to Miami?
Yeah. Well, I know the big frustration of Mark leaving the way he did was that, Manny Diaz went ahead and took the Temple job, and they almost kind of wish that Mark would have made this decision sooner, so that Manny Diaz would have been kind of the coach in waiting, and they would have already had a coach there. But it'll be interesting to see who they get in that spot for sure.
Yeah, it has to be quick, though, I think.
Yeah, it's going to have to be quick, real quick. Well, anyway, I appreciate it. I've got 4 on hold, and I just seen somebody else log in. on the call board, and it's a surprise for everybody. I heard his voice. Everybody recognized. I didn't even hear what he said. Something about college football, but I know who it is just by listening to him. He's coming up, and he's got 2 or 3 ahead of him. But we're going to go to Aaron Ross in Maryville, Tennessee. I seen Aaron that Matt's is asking if we've heard anything on the offensive coordinator job yet. You're there in K-Town. Have you heard anything?
I have not heard anything specifically, but I haven't been paying as much attention to it as I probably should have. It was kind of something that I kind of gave up on several weeks ago, saying, whoever they hire, they're going to hire,
Yeah.
They didn't really get anybody that I thought that would be perfect for the job, like any big names or anything. So I kind of gave up looking at it. But I posted on Facebook yesterday, just before the Alabama-Oklahoma game, that I said, I just got a feeling that Oklahoma's about to get blown out. And when Alabama went up 28-0, man, I thought I was a genius. But, the score isn't what you would necessarily call a blowout. But if you watch that game, Alabama had that game the entire time. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma made a slight comeback, but I say that word loosely. Like I said, I think Alabama had a hold of the game from start to finish.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it just looked like Alabama. It's kind of like last year. I mean, they were really beat up towards the end of the year, and they got into the playoffs, and they were a completely different team. They were energized. They were getting healthy, and I just think that's going to be hard for any team to face. Now, Clemson's a heck of a football team now, and Clemson could totally win this championship, but I just think that with that secondary of theirs, they're going to have to really generate some pressure. I mean, that defensive line of theirs, which is very good, is going to have to be amazing in this game to win it. And I just think at the end of the day, I think Bama's a little bit more battle tested. I think that they're coming into their own at a good time. They have a little bit better depth at quarterback. I just think that Alabama will get it done against Clemson, but who knows? I mean, I think it's going to be a whale of a game regardless.
I agree. I think that Alabama-Clemson game will go a lot. I think it'll be very similar to how Alabama played Georgia. I think Alabama and Georgia was a similar matchup to Alabama-Clemson. Georgia's defense, I think, is pretty much on the same level as Clemson's defense. And obviously at quarterback, Trevor Lawrence is looking like a NFL quarterback as a freshman. And I think that game against Clemson for Alabama will go a lot like the Georgia game went.
Yeah, well, and I think with Georgia too, looking at it from our perspective, I mean, just seeing the things that we were able to do, I think it's critical for Clemson to be able to dominate time of possession and to win on third down. That was one area. Georgia did a good job of time of possession against Alabama. They did not do a good job in third downs, especially late in the game when you had to make those conversions. And I think on defense, I think if you can generate some edge pressure, which Georgia was able to do in that game, and get to in that pocket, he will make some bad throws, and we were able to pick him off a little bit. Of course, Georgia had a better secondary than Clemson, too. So it's kind of a chicken versus the egg kind of argument there. Does the defensive line make your secondary better? Does your secondary make your defensive line better? And it's just going to be interesting to see, but it's going to be two powerhouse teams battling out here.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing from yesterday that I think was painfully obvious, Notre Dame did not deserve to be anywhere near the playoffs. And if it was up to me, I would say that there needs to be a rule implemented for the playoffs to where if you're not at least in a conference where you can play a conference championship game, you shouldn't be eligible for them.
I don't know. It's hard for me to say they don't deserve it. They went undefeated. I understand why. I want them to be in a conference. I said at the beginning of the show, they need to be in a dang conference. I don't know why they're not. Well, I do know why. It comes down to money. But I just think that they're going to eventually, you're going to see a day where you're going to see Notre Dame in a conference. I know Notre Dame fans don't want to hear that, but I just think you will. And I just think that I think Notre Dame is better than what they played yesterday. I don't know. Maybe I don't get to watch very much Notre Dame football, but I just have a feeling they just. Do you think there was just that much talent differential between Clemson and Notre Dame that they didn't even what was it, 30-3? What was the final score? It wasn't. They didn't score but a field goal.
30 to 3 was the final score, and I thought that Notre Dame, the way that they played yesterday, they looked like a very average, subpar ACC team. That's about how it looked to me like they were playing yesterday. They looked like a Pitt or a Syracuse, who is good teams, but they're not championship teams.
Yeah,
and that's what I think. That's what I think Notre Dame looked like to me.
Yeah, before you go, I think what the committee needs to do, they need to have a clear-cut set of rules on how they determine and how they look at who should get in. I think it's too vague, and it's almost like they're throwing darts up against the board. But anyway, I've got to catch some callers. I've got a happy Alabama fan up next. I want to grab him, and then I've got a surprise after the Vol General comes on, and hopefully the Vol General knows more about our offensive coordinator's position. And then I've got the surprise of the show so far. But anyway, I appreciate it, Aaron. You're always a great call. I love it when you call. You're really articulate. You know your stuff, and most importantly, you're a Tennessee fan, and I appreciate that, buddy.
Absolutely, Catfish. Y'all be safe.
All right. Well, we're going to go get this Alabama fan out of the way. He's probably going to – I think these Alabama fans, they're just numb to winning. I think so, Couch Coach. How you doing, Alabama fan? How you doing?
Hey, Catfish. What you up to, man?
I just trying to put on a show for everybody.
Yeah. I drive myself. I head out to Kentucky right now, headed to Georgia. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Last night I was like, can we just put this game away? I had to make a delivery at 4 a.m. and sitting up till midnight to watch the game was not fun.
Yeah.
I was like, can we just put this away and be done with it? I mean, at halftime I was like, yeah, I'll watch half the third quarter and go to bed. But then Alabama did the thing that Alabama does and let people back in it. That's the one thing I have to say about Alabama is we need to develop that killer instinct we had at the beginning of the year where we just, stomped on your neck and walked away, Don't let people get back up.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, I agree. And I think that with Clemson, you really have to have that mentality because Clemson can absolutely score points in bunches. And, they really have to be able to put Clemson away if they have that opportunity to do so.
Now, with the Mark Richt, I just recently found out about that. But, I figure he's probably going to be up there beside Butch Jones. He's going to be an Alabama advisor. Seems to be the thing to do when you retire from coach. You go to Alabama and make $20,000-$30,000 a year to sit in the booth and, just, give the coaches your opinion, privately. I guess it's a good thing to have all that, experience up there.
No, see that only works if you're like a former Tennessee head coach. Then you get to go to Alabama and be a recruiting coordinator or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the one thing that I've got to say about the playoff situation, I've been saying this for years. We've got enough teams we could do 16 or 8 16-team conferences, and that'd put pretty much everybody in the conference. We do away with the playoff committee. The first round is your conference championship. After the conference championship, the 8 winners lined up, play, based on the seating. And, that would do away with all this argument. You earn it on the field one way or the other.
I don't know if it would do away with the argument. Heck, that's a micro version of the basketball tournament way of doing things, and there's still arguments about that. I don't think you're ever going to get away from the argument. You're just not. They need to come out and state very clearly: are they picking the 4 best teams, regardless of record, or the 4 most deserving teams? Because sometimes those aren't the same thing. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. So I'd like to know what, is it the 4 best teams? Because if they are, I'm not sure that Notre Dame should have been in there. I don't know. But anyway, Driver, I'm glad. Go ahead.
Be honest with you, I don't think either Oklahoma or Notre Dame belonged in there because both of them looked like they were, playing checkers while the other team was playing chess. Honestly, I think, and this may surprise a few people, and LSU may make me look like a fool for saying this, but I personally would have liked to seen UCF and Georgia in there.
That's interesting. I think UCF has got a lot of beef. They're trolling the internet about getting locked out of this playoffs. But anyway, Driver, keep her between the ditches there. I got 2 more calls to get, then I've got to take care of some business. But anyway, appreciate it, Driver. Always good to have truck drivers calling in to Volunteer Roadshow. But we're going to make a one more call, and then we've got a world famous YouTuber going to be on last. But we got Vol General. Vol General, do we have any news on offensive coordinator yet?
Yeah, actually we do. When I woke up this morning, I looked at I check on the I get ready and everything, and I look on the Twitter. Tennessee has offered the offensive coordinating job to Oklahoma State offensive coordinator Mike Richt. He has the offer in hand, according to 247 Sports. So the ball is in his court on that one. So if he wants the job, it's his.
Really?
Ohio State is also going after him, but he has an offer from Tennessee. So expect an announcement, either if he declined or accepted that job offer after Oklahoma State's bowl game, which is Monday, versus Missouri.
Now, I've also heard of Sarkisian's name being thrown around a little bit. Have you heard the same thing?
Yeah. Steve Sarkisian's name was being heavily thrown around up until this morning. And that was, articles were coming out. From what I heard, I've read one, it said Steve Sarkisian, he's basically imminent at Tennessee, all signs indicating that way. And then this morning, the news breaks that Tennessee has offered the job to Mike Richt. So this has been going back and forth, basically. And I was listening to one of the Knoxville shows. I think it was Tony Basilio or somebody. And he says that Tennessee has totally shut this thing down communications-wise, meaning transparency is gone, basically. Anybody that would have told the media anything is now gone.
Yeah.
That's why we're hearing so much nothing. So that's why it's so silent. But so either there's two possibilities, in my opinion, with Urich. Either A, he's willing to take the Tennessee job, and that's why he was leaked out. B, he is pulling on Mike Gundy and is trying to get
more money
at Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or C, he just goes to Ohio State if they offer him. But right now, my bet would be he goes to Tennessee. But that's just me. We'll find out soon enough.
What did you think about the games yesterday? Let me ask you a question. Were you more surprised at Florida beating Michigan or Auburn beating Purdue like they did?
Well, I expected Auburn to win that game by a lot, but not by that much. I also expected Florida to win, but I never, in my wildest dreams, would have expected them to win over Michigan by that much.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go with probably Florida in that one. put a Georgia, even though Georgia's better, without a doubt, you can't put Georgia in over Notre Dame. You just can't do it. Georgia had their chance when they lost to LSU by 20 points and when they lost to Alabama. You just can't put them in over an undefeated Notre Dame team, even though they're much better.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I agree with that.
Go ahead,
I agree with that. And listen, I mean, as a as a Georgia fan, I believe that you have to win your conference. I think the point and the counterpoint that Kirby makes, and this again comes back down to the conference discussion, is look, Alabama didn't win their conference last year. They got in with one loss. They didn't win their division, right? They would have still gotten into the playoff this year if they lost to Georgia. So what Kirby, even though he didn't really come from a place of strength when he said this, he's like, listen, these guys are getting mulligans. Do you want the 4 best teams in there or not? And, now, again, I agree with you that we had 2 losses. We don't get in. And quite honestly, from Georgia's standpoint, I think they're in a prettier situation than if they actually made the playoff. I think that there's a lot. This is something that is going to improve the playoff scenario moving forward. And I think if Georgia plays this correctly, which is they go into that Sugar Bowl, they take care of business against Texas, they land in that top 3, top 4 spot, they show the playoff committee, you guys made a big mistake. And you got a lot of people in the national media that are saying, yeah, Georgia probably should have been in at 4. I mean, you got even Alabama fans saying this, right? So I just think Georgia needs to be very – if Georgia goes out there and lays an egg versus Texas, that is a horrible coaching job from Kirby Smart. So he needs to handle this correctly, take care of business, and really move that momentum going into 2019.
I don't think they're going to have any problem with Texas whatsoever. I know Kirby's catching a lot of flack for over the last couple weeks, but he's a great coach. He's a great recruiter, and that's what wins these games is talent. I mean, you're looking at the 2 best teams in college football, Clemson and Alabama. What do they have in common? They have better players than everybody else, a lot better players than Oklahoma on both sides of the ball. Notre Dame, it was just painfully obvious. But you know what? Next year, y'all just wait till next year. I mean, I know. Listen, let me tell you something. Wait till next year. Book it. Mortgage your house. We're going to. I don't know where we're going.
A bowl game.
We're going
to a bowl game.
We're going. Yeah. No, we're not going to just any bowl game. We're going to a decent bowl. I'm going to tell you that right now. We're going to a decent bowl. But anyway, Vol General, what else did you have? What did you think about Lane Kiffin before I get my surprise on the phone, my surprise guest?
What about Lane Kiffin? What about him?
I mean, do you think he's going to be the leading candidate at Miami?
I mean, he's going to be a candidate. I don't know if he's the leading candidate.
Well, name somebody right now. Name somebody right now that'd be a better fit than Lane Kiffin.
Okay, give me a second. Let me think. Yeah, I can't think of one right now.
All right, he's a leading candidate.
He's a good hire. Miami wants to win, right? They don't care about. I saw Uncle Lou this morning. He's probably. This is what he said. I couldn't have said this better myself. Miami does not care about morals. That's why Mark Richt is not there anymore. It's not like they want to win. So Lane Kiffin would probably be if I'm Miami, that's who I would call first.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Miami's going to do that or not. Oh, there we go. I got one. Stoops over at Kentucky. That's a good fit over there.
Oh, man. Well, I think Lane Kiffin's going to be the next coach at Miami. I don't know if you can bet on it or not, but I appreciate it, Vol General. I'm going to get my surprise guest, and then I'm going to get on off of here. This guy right here, let me tell y'all something. This guy, he may sound like he's got a few extra chromosomes and maybe, not all there, but he knows football. He knows a lot of football, and I'm going to ask you right now, Bobby Durkins, will you confirm that Tennessee is going to the college football playoffs next year? Will you back me up on that?
Let me tell you this, Catfish.
Let's to me, Catfish. I don't know how many beers you've drank to believe it. Tennessee's going to the college football playoff next year, but Couch Coach, take it away from him. He's had way too much.
Yep.
No, I think they're going to be better. They're going to be better. I think they're going to do well. They're recruiting. They're recruiting well and doing the Lord's work, and trying to make Tennessee great again. But yeah, hopefully y'all will y'all do better. I think you do better. You're already recruiting good, and Jeremy Pruitt's doing his best Nick Saban impression. I think it's a winner. I think you'll do well, like Tennessee. Really, really do. Don't like that we just lost a recruit to him, but anyway. But,
hey, Bobby, can we just sit here and collectively laugh at the South Carolina Gamecocks for getting shut out against the Wahoos of Virginia? Can we go ahead and do that?
Let me go ahead and let me tell you right now about those Dookie Packers from Columbia. Those morons somehow lost to Virginia 28-0. How do you do that? How do you do that?
I'm at a loss for words. Lost for words. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's like somebody saying, look, we're going to give you all this money right inside this bank vault right here. It's yours. All you have to do is hold this piece of paper for 30 seconds, and that moron wads it up and throws it away. That's what they did yesterday. I tell you this, Columbia should just go ahead and put a match to that university and just start over again. Maybe open up a horse gynecology school down there. I don't know. Or a bunch of butt doctors. They could start a butt doctor school down there. It'd be way more productive than what they're doing already. I've said this once. I'll say it 1,000 more times after this. If Muschamp could not win at Florida, he's not winning in the armpit of the state of South Carolina. That's stupidity.
Well, I asked Couch Coach before the show, I said, actually, I don't know if I asked you. I think I just said this, Couch Coach. I think this puts Muschamp on the hot seat. What do you think, Bobby?
I mean, you just don't know about Carolina. You don't know about Carolina fans. You don't know about Carolina administration. For all I know, they're going to give him a $3 million a year raise. I mean, that's just how they operate down there. That's why we make fun of them. By the way, y'all forgive me. I'm driving down the road right now. Bobby Durkins Jr., he's back here getting restless. He was screaming like he had his hand in boiling water. So if I have to go, I'll have to go. But, but who are they going to hire down there, y'all? Who are they going to put down there? I mean, are they going to get Gandhi or something to go down there and coach for them next? I mean, what are they going to do? Well, I will tell you this. Off the Gamecocks, I'm real proud of my Tigers. I expected a much closer game. I called for 34-20. Had people telling me, you've lost your mind, you've drank too many beers. Maybe that was true. But the truth is, Clemson showed out yesterday. They showed out, and some of the most foul-mouthed jerks I've ever read in comments coming off any of my boards has been Notre Dame fans. Now, I've had some good Notre Dame fans, good Christian folks. But the thing is, some of the biggest pricks I've ever met in my life was a Notre Dame Fighting Irish during this time, running their mouth, and all I got to say is, yeah, sit there, go watch that was pathetic. That was pathetic. And then Alabama goes and does what they do. So it's us and them again, round 4. Man, I'm riding up and down through here. They got billboards of Dabo everywhere. He's endorsing products. He's endorsing a security system for your home. He's endorsing local plumbing companies. I think he was even endorsing a couple of feminine products. I don't know if he uses them or not, but I'm telling you, Tiger Nation is happy.
You're right. Hey, if Dabo beats Saban in a week from now, do you think he could be the governor of South Carolina?
I can be the governor of South Carolina right now. A lot of people don't know this. This is actually true. When we had our governor's race about 6 weeks ago or something like that, that Dabo Sweeney was written in like 6 times, and Hunter Renfrow was written in once, and that's actually true.
Well, to be fair, Hunter Renfrow is probably of the age to be the governor of the South Carolina. He's 38 now or something.
Yeah, he's been around. He's been around a long time. He really has. He really has. He's been. I'm going to tell you, when he leaves, we're going to miss him, because that guy, he's clutch. I mean, he's clutch. He's outrageous. He's clutch. But we're looking forward to it. I'll say this: I'm not going to talk trash about Alabama. Okay, not too much trash. Alabama's Alabama. We know who Alabama is. I don't have to sit here and recite the ABCs for you. You know them. But I'm going to tell you, they do not like playing against high-octane offenses. They hate it. I know our secondary looked like mannequins in jerseys against South Carolina, but we saw what happened against Notre Dame, because their wide receivers are good wide receivers. We just shut them down. We put the pressure on them. We shut them down. By the way, did y'all notice how many Notre Dame players ended up getting hurt? It was like every other play. Oh, I got to stop the game here. A little guy, he hadn't hit puberty yet, and we think something's happened to him. I mean, he's horrible. But, no, seriously, Alabama struggles against teams who has a lot of threats, and Clemson has a lot of threats. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a hard-fought game. And, of course, I'm going to pick my Tigers to win. I mean, and that's not something that I have to, stretch or imagine or anything. It's just the truth. It's just the truth that I believe they're going to win the national championship.
Yes,
well,
indeed. Well,
the New Year's is right around the corner, Bobby. What's your New Year's resolution? Do you got any?
My New Year's resolution, not to get incarcerated this year.
I guess that's a good one. The best way to do that is to not do anything illegal. Did you know that?
We don't want to talk about that right now.
All right, what's your prediction? Give me a score prediction. You said they're going to win. By how much? What's the score going to be?
I believe that Clemson beats Alabama 34-31. 34-31. There we go. It's going to be a hard-fought game. It's going to be one for the ages, and it's going to come down to something like. So you're just going to see the 30s. You're not going to. They might go in the 40s, but I just don't really see the 40s. I see the 30s. It's going to be a 3-point game, and the Tigers are going to hold that national championship above their head. For the second time out of the past 3 years. It's going to be big time. Saban might even kill himself that night. It'll be exciting.
Well, before I let you go, chime in on your rival over there or down there in Miami. What's going on with Mark Richt? What do you think about that situation? Do you think he quit, or do you think he was forced to quit?
I think it was a little bit of both. If you look on paper, that team who was coming in to play for them this year, that team on paper looked good. And I'm not a Miami fan. They returned a lot of talent. They recruited really, really well coming into this season, and they bombed. They play in one of the worst conferences in the country. ACC's trash. I say that one day, I say it the next. I always say it. It's trash right now. They play in the easiest division of the ACC because they're not playing against Clemson. They don't have to play Clemson. They only meet Clemson if they get into the conference championship, right?
Yeah.
Well, they even blew that. So could he have been forced out? Could somebody sit down in there with him across, in Miami, pulled a gun out on him and said, look, we think it's time you retire. That's possible. That's quite possible. I was listening to Couch Coach what he said earlier. I think he was tired. I think he's tired. I think he should have took some time in between Georgia and Miami, but he didn't. He didn't, and he looked, and I'm not making fun of him. I'm serious. He looks tired. He needs to go sleep somewhere, like a bed and breakfast up in the hills of Vermont, somewhere up there. But, yeah, I think it might have been a little bit of both. But Lane Kiffin would be a great fit down there. Could you imagine Lane Kiffin running Miami? Lord, that'd be great. Make for good TV.
I think he's got to be the leading candidate. I said it earlier. I can't think of anybody better. I just think he just fits that. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking wrong, but I can't think of anybody that could fit better than Lane Kiffin down in Miami. But anyway, Bobby.
No. And
I asked all the questions. What did you call in for? I'm sorry for hijacking your call like that.
Oh, no. Oh, Lord, no. We talked about what I was calling in to talk about.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I just talking about college football. Greatest sport ever.
Yeah, absolutely. You got anything for Bobby Couch Coach before we go?
I have nothing except hold that tiger.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, y'all be good. Sure is good talking. Y'all be good. My kid back here, he's making noises like he's being tortured. I better go.
All right. Thank you, Bobby.
All right, I'll see you. All right, bye.
Well, Couch Coach, what else is going on? Who plays Georgia plays Texas. Give me a rundown on that game before we go. What are you expecting out of that game? Give me a prediction.
Well, the big ones for New Year's. Sure, the big ones for New Year's Day are Georgia versus Texas, and then, of course, the really interesting matchup is LSU and UCF. I think for Georgia, Texas, what I hope and what I think are two different things. I mean, I really hope that, this is where your perspective could come in. I mean, you think they'll take care of Texas. I hope that that's the case. I think we've had a lot of drama those last few weeks, and I think it's imperative that Georgia takes care of business. But at the same time, I don't think Texas is as bad as people think. I mean, we might beat them by about 10 points or so, but 13, that seems a little high for me. I do like Georgia to win it, but if I had to pick a score, I would say probably like 38-28, something like that.
I think it all depends on their mindset. How they come in there.
Yep.
Are they going to come in like Auburn did last year against UCF and just not want to be there because they're pouting about not getting in the playoffs or whatever? If they do that, they could get run out of the stadium. But if they come to play and say, look, college football committee, look what you missed out on, I don't think it's going to be close. And you know what? I want LSU to beat UCF so dang bad. I want to shut those guys up about their fake national championship. I don't know. What do you think about that? I just want LSU to beat UCF bad.
That's the interesting matchup because, again, I mean, UCF is riding a winning streak that, undefeated, winning streak the last 2 years. I think that, their offense is good. I mean, they've lost Mackenzie Milton, but that, backup's not bad. It's just really hard to assess, based on the competition that they played. I mean, LSU, they don't have a dynamic offense, but boy, that defense will hit you in the mouth and see how you react to it. And that Florida winning the way they did, that really made LSU's 9-3 look a little bit better, in my opinion. I mean, they lost to Alabama. They lost to a 10-win Florida team. This Texas A&M game could have went either way. They're probably going to finish with maybe 9 wins this year. So I think LSU is a solid football team, and I think that there's just a little bit more incentive for them to want to win than it was for Auburn. I do think it'll be a close game. I think that it will probably be about, I would say probably like a 29-17 kind of game. I just don't think that LSU's defense, after playing a Georgia and a Alabama and some of these other teams, is going to be scared of what UCF brings to the table. I think they're going to take care of business. But, UCF will make it a little sporty contest. So I think it'll be about 29-17 LSU win.
That's probably what I would put it at. I think LSU will win it, but I think UCF has the talent to keep it close. And how about that Purdue-Auburn game? Is that not – who's more embarrassed, Purdue or Ohio State after that game?
Delusional Paul needs to come down to the front of the class and accept the massive losses that his conference is eating. I mean, good Lord, Michigan looked horrible. Purdue 56-7 at halftime against Auburn. This is Auburn's offense, right? This wasn't like Alabama. This wasn't Georgia. 56-7 at the half. That is embarrassing. The Big Ten has done nothing but embarrass themselves. Just an dreadful performance. Ohio State needs to show up in their bowl game in the Rose Bowl too to show that the Big Ten is not a complete and total joke.
Well, we got a caller coming in. It looks like my good friend, my mentor, big Vol Daddy is calling. Let's see if I'm right here. Is this Lionel Richie or Big Vol Daddy?
Hey, what's going on there, Mr. Catfish? This is Lionel Roadshow Richie. Hey, these guys don't have a clue what that's all about, do they?
No, they don't have a clue about the Lionel Richie joke, and I'm not telling them neither.
No, you can't tell. If you ever tell that, you and I are done. Lose my number. I joined the show late. Did you guys talk any at all about the excellence of Tennessee basketball, or was it all about those two bullshit football games last night?
We talked a little bit about basketball. Somebody asked if we have officially taken over the SEC in basketball, and I said, hell yeah. You dang right. We have taken over Kentucky. We're going to sweep them this year, break out the brooms. I stood up for my team. What do you think?
Well, I think that's a good possibility, but, Kentucky's Kentucky. I want to know, did anybody watch the UFC last night?
No.
I bet you
did,
didn't talk anything about that, did you?
Nope.
I will talk about it. How about Amanda, the Lioness, Nunez knocking out Cyborg, which is a huge deal throughout the last 5 or 6 years, about how this Cyborg, this mannish creature of a fighter, could knock out, any woman in any division. Was the greatest women's fighter. She got knocked out in 50 seconds of the first round or something like that.
Couch Coach, that thing is not a woman. I don't know what the hell she is, and I know this is a family show, but that chick is freaking gross looking, man. I mean, it was beauty to see Nunez, or however you say her name, punch that bitch right in the schnoz about 10 times last night. That was beautiful.
She dominated. Dominated her, dominated Ronda Rousey. So hey,
that looked like Alabama punching Oklahoma in the mouth.
So Oklahoma's possibly a man-woman cyborg, is what you're saying.
You definitely. I left a comment, Catfish. I don't know if you saw it in your chat box down there. I think Alabama is going to hump Clemson like a St. Bernard on a schnauzer next week. What do you guys think?
Yeah, what's your prediction, Catfish?
Man, I need a couple more days to think about it. I think it's going to be close to the point spread is 6.5?
6.5, yep.
Oh, man. I think I don't know that Alabama's going to blow them out. I really don't. I think they've struggled a little bit. They haven't faced a defense and an offense like they will in Clemson, so it's hard to say. I think my first reaction is, they'll win by 14 to 21 points. But when you start thinking about it on paper and looking back over the season, it's probably going to be a pretty good ball game. I think it's going to be a dang good ball game. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson won. I really wouldn't.
All you have to do is look at the last 3 or 4 years and who is consistently playing for the national championship every year. And I know you guys are probably sick of seeing these two teams. Yeah. And I know Catfish is an SEC homer, so you'll probably be pulling for Alabama. But I hope Clemson wins. I've had enough of Nick Saban. I've had enough of Alabama. I'm getting my fill of Clemson too, but I just think they're the lesser of two evils right now. And I don't know what good it would do anyway, because I'm with the consensus. I think when Nick Saban gets done, Dabo is Tuscaloosa bound. So we may be stuck with those assholes for the rest of our lives.
You know what? Here's my take on all that. I think that this could possibly be Alabama's last national championship. It just feels that way to me for some reason. I don't know if Nick's going to retire. I don't know if Dabo's necessarily the shoe-in over at Alabama. I mean, you would think that with the money, but I can't think of two philosophies that are completely different than Dabo and Nick. I don't know. But as far as the game itself, I see it being – I think Alabama is probably about 7 points better than Clemson. I think that, would it shock me if Clemson won or pulled this out? No. I mean, I think Clemson's a very dynamic football team. But I just think it really comes down to them catching Alabama at a good time. I think that secondary, it's still kind of question mark. I see it being about a 38-31 kind of Alabama deal, and I think Alabama takes care of business.
Yeah, I think any scenario in that game is a likely possibility, except I would be shocked if Clemson blew Alabama out. That would surprise me, but I don't know. I'll be looking to see if there's any Russian tiddlywinks going on that night. Something besides Alabama football.
Yeah.
Amen.
What do you think about?
There's surely.
What do you think about Lane Kiffin going to Miami? Do you think he'll make a good fit down there? I seen in the comments section you didn't think so.
No, I said. I actually, in the comments, I said that Lane Kiffin to Miami would be a great fit in 1985.
Yeah.
I don't know about right now. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm just really, honestly sick of the whole Lane Kiffin talk anyway. I mean, let him stay at Florida Atlantic or wherever the hell he is right now, and I don't know. They'll screw it up somehow. Miami has gotten really good at screwing things up down there, so they'll figure out a way to screw it up.
Well, there you go.
Well, can you hang on for one call, BVD? I got Squid Tard calling, and I think that's who this is. Hang on with me. Let's see what he's got to say. He might want to talk to you. Let me push the talk button.
All right.
You're on with BVD, Catfish, and Couch Coach. Who do we have here, and what you got?
This is Squid Tard.
Hey, Squid Tard.
What's up, Squiddy?
How y'all been?
Good.
Excellent.
Good. You need to get you a partner for your YouTube show named Lenny and call yourself Lenny and Squiddy. The youngins won't get that one.
Oh, yeah, that would be funny. Yesterday, I made a terrible mistake while streaming on my sports channel. Luckily, it was my sports channel, but what happened was I decided that for some stupid reason, I thought it would be a good idea to stream the Orange Bowl on the stream. Worst idea I ever made. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. YouTube found that out, and they took my live streaming privileges away. So what I did was I made a new Squid Tard sports channel. You'll see it in the comment section right about now.
You actually put the picture of the game on your stream where people could see it?
Yeah, it was an idiotic decision. I know. I'm not hearing the end of it from everyone.
I'm not going to call you an idiot for that one, Squid Tard, but that definitely wasn't the smartest thing you've ever done as a YouTuber.
Right, and that's part of the decision why I chose not to do it on my main channel, because I had a thought that this was a stupid idea, and that's why I didn't. That's why I didn't bother.
How long did it take for him to pull you down?
Let's see. It took him about 20 minutes. Quite a few people showed up, and then I realized, this is a lot bigger deal than I thought. And then I saw where it got taken down, and they were like, okay, we just took away your live stream privileges, and now I can't. Now I couldn't have made live stream videos, so I spent like 5 hours trying to make a new channel. It was a hassle for sure, but it wasn't the biggest deal. This is certainly a manageable problem since now I've made a new channel. So yeah.
Let me get this straight. You actually showed the game on live stream. What did you do? Tell me that again.
It sounds just like what it is. I streamed the actual game. Like I had the actual game, and I realized, oh crap, this is a bad idea.
Oh wow!
I'm surprised
Luckily,
it lasted 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I know. But luckily, it was my sports channel. I only had like 40 subscribers on there, and it wasn't my main channel. That would have been a huge problem. So luckily, I dodged a bullet there.
We we can't all be bad dog and volunteer roadshow when it comes to this live stuff,
Well,
Yeah,
what
true.
did you think about the games before we go? I've got to go here pretty quick, but what do you think about the two games yesterday?
I'm not shocked at the results. What happened was I knew that was going to happen. I knew Notre Dame and Oklahoma were not playoff teams, and I still think that Georgia should have been in over those two teams, Georgia and maybe Michigan. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess it was fair because...
Come on, man. Are you serious about Michigan? Did you watch their last two games?
Actually, yeah, not Michigan.
They gave up almost 100 points. Okay, we'll call that a slip of the tongue.
Yes, that was a slip of the tongue. But Georgia should have been in over Notre Dame. Hashtag exposed.
I have my personal thoughts on that. I just don't think in a 4-team playoff you can put a team with 2 losses in there. I mean, yeah, I think Georgia is probably, they're probably one of the 4 best teams in the country, but you can't blow a lead like they did against Alabama. And especially, on the eve of the playoff and expect to get in. You just can't do that.
Well, you're right.
And the thing about it, too, is, again, and this is what I keep telling Georgia fans, it's like Georgia wins that game, they get to the playoff. Alabama is still getting into that playoff regardless, which means we would play Alabama again, and we would not beat Alabama in the rematch. We lose to Alabama like we did, we don't get into the playoffs. So it's like, if we're going to lose, this is just my opinion, if we're going to lose to Alabama anyway, I'd rather take it on the front end than on the back end, because what's the point? We've already proven we can win conference titles, right? So this is kind of my feeling with the Georgia people. It's like, forget about 2018. That's whatever. Moving forward is how Georgia needs to play this thing correctly. They need to dominate in the Sugar Bowl. They need to land a top 3 recruiting class. They need to build this momentum going into next year. And I know that that's kind of our mantra. That's everyone's mantra, right? Is next year is our year, right? But I think in Georgia's case, just with the momentum that they have, with kind of, they're the ones looking good in this situation right now, with the playoffs going down. And so I just think that they need to handle that correctly moving forward.
I
agree. I completely agree.
Yep.
Well, Squid Tart, do you got anything else? You got anything else?
Oh, well, I was about to say that UGA definitely has the talent to be able to go to the national championship for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And they definitely are one of the top 4 best teams in the country. But anyway, that's all I have to say. I don't know if you tell, but my voice is kind of raspy. I've been sick for a few days, but thank you for taking my call. I really appreciate it.
All right, Squid Tard. We're going to go to Bo Knows. He's watched me a little bit over the years.
No.
He's on hold, and let's see what he's got to say. You're on with the legendary Big Vol Daddy, Catfish, and Couch Coach. What you got?
Hey, BVD, how are you going to say Miami is boy, is the pot calling the kettle black?
I knew as soon as I heard that he was on the line there that I was getting ready to get it.
Oh, I heard that. I had to call in.
I mean, come on, Bo. You gotta admit, man, they've gotten good at screwing things up. I mean, I call it the pot calling the kettle black or whatever, but everybody knows that Tennessee has perfected the art of screwing shit up. So I guess you must be using Tennessee as the example of how to.
Yeah.
Moving forward, who do you want to replace Richt?
I want Butch Davis. That's easy. Butch Davis back.
Really?
Who do you want that is a reality?
Butch Davis. Look what he's done at FIU. He's already turned them around. I want Butch Davis.
I know, man, but you guys wanted him the last time too, didn't you? You wanted him the last 2 head coaches.
Yeah, but Mark Richt was there, and of course they're going to take Mark Richt's the safer hire at the time.
If you guys,
Washington,
if they hire Butch, that'd be, I guess that would be a coup for you guys. I know it'd make the fan base happy, but I don't know. It surprised me.
Oregon.
I mean, I think he's done an all right job at Oregon, but I don't know, man. Miami's just a tough job. You know that. And the fan expectation down there is, I'm not going to say it's unrealistic, but it's up there. They expect anybody that comes in down there to take them to a national championship right away. And that's just, unfortunately for you guys right now, that's not a possibility or not a reality.
No, they don't want national championship. They just want to win the Coastal Division, which is god awful. That's all they want to do.
That's amazing.
Win the Coastal and have a chance to play Clemson in the AC Championship. That's the first step. Second step is be able to beat Clemson and get to the playoff.
Let me ask you a question, Bonos. I appreciate you following me for a while. I'm friends with you on Facebook, but you don't like the idea of Lane Kiffin at all. I just think he'd be a good fit down there.
So I like Lane Kiffin. I think he'd be a good fit. I think he'd recruit real good. I think his offense will fit, and he might be. It might be his time to finally succeed in a big time program. But he comes with a lot of. We don't want to get in trouble. He might get us in trouble.
Yeah, that's gonna follow him everywhere he goes. Is that people being worried about him getting their program in trouble, and whether it's legit or not, that's the fact. I mean, I wouldn't hire him if I was AD somewhere else.
Hey, earlier I was listening to you guys talking about Notre Dame. If Notre Dame was in the ACC, they would have played Clemson in the ACC title game, and they would have been out to play one of those two teams. That would have been the title game, and Clemson would have been in. Notre Dame would have been out. They need to make them join the ACC. It's time for them to step down and make them join the ACC in football.
They already play an ACC schedule. Heck, they play half the ACC every year. I think that's a great idea. They need to join somebody. I don't know who it is, but they need to join a damn conference.
I think they'd be a perfect fit for the Big Ten.
No, they're in the ACC just like they were the Big East in basketball and baseball. Back in the day, them and Penn State were supposed to come to the Big East in around 1991. They're supposed to both come to the Big East. That was the plan. They both backed out. So they need to join the ACC, and then the ACC will be at 16 teams. You'll put Notre Dame with Miami in the Coastal. You add another team, probably like a Cincinnati or somebody, to the Florida State side, and then you'll get them out of the playoffs. But right now, they're going to go 12-0. They're going to beat a Michigan team. They're going to get in the playoffs.
I say we just need to go to 8 or 16 teams, and then we can have something new to argue about.
Yeah.
I say 6 teams. I say top two teams get a bye, and then you got 4 that play it out for the first round.
I mean, it works at every other level of college football.
Yep.
You don't think 16? And then people are crying about blowouts. Last year we had a game going overtime. How about the years when we had just 2 teams in the championship game? You have Alabama blowing out Miami, or Oklahoma getting blown out by USC. There's always been blowouts, no matter how we've done it.
Yeah.
So I think looking at the blowouts is terrible. It's one team can have a good night, one team can have a bad night.
Yeah, it don't matter how many teams you put in there. There's going to be somebody's going to have an argument, or somebody's going to whine about being left out. The basketball tournament's a prime example. It doesn't matter. You could put every team that plays college basketball in the tournament, and some damn body would have something to bitch about.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep. But hey, guys, thanks for taking my call.
All right, buddy.
All right, sir. Have a good one.
Well, guys, I guess I'm gonna wrap this thing up. Do y'all have anything else you want to say?
Go Dogs.
Happy New Year.
Take care of business. Yep,
You know any new no arms and no legs jokes, BVD? I think we've said all of them, haven't we? When you was on the truck with me.
I think
I think we've about covered them all. I don't know, what do you call a man with no arms and no legs standing in the middle of the Rose Bowl?
Don't tell me.
I don't know either. We'll figure out an answer for that one and get back to that one.
All right, guys. I
Man with no arm. How about this? I know what you call a man with no nuts standing in the middle of the Rose Bowl. Urban Meyer.
Gosh. All right.
All right, guys. I appreciate it. Well, anyway, those of you that tuned in, y'all know what's coming next. Thanks for tuning in. Go Vols. The Tennessee men's basketball team, we're going to the Final Four, and we're going to meet up with Duke in the national championship and get our first national championship in men's basketball history. I promise you that.